The ambitious goals set forth by Tempe's Climate Action Plan and the proactive efforts of the city and community leaders to invest in solutions that provide shade, to promote urban cooling, implement cost-saving programs, and increase access to food, transportation, and affordable housing are transforming Tempe into a sustainable city of the future and has drawn national attention. EOPA is here, along with a climate action campaign, to congratulate the mayor, city council members, administrative staff, and local community leaders for their tireless efforts to protect the residents of Tempe from the dangers of the climate crisis. We're truly impressed with your commitment to equity and inclusion of those who are most impacted by extreme heat when developing solutions to the climate crisis issues your city faces. Solutions that are being implemented with the help of federal funding through the Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA, and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, or BILL. The IRA invests in technologies of the future in the US, supporting local economies and strengthening supply chains. Since the passage of the IRA, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, Arizona has seen more than $10 billion worth of investments in new clean energy projects, resulting in over 13,000 jobs. Your homes and your business weatherization programs, along with, will allow folks to see lower monthly utility costs while their quality of life goes up. We truly believe you are making Tempe a model city for the Southwest. EOPA and a coalition of a dozen major national environmental justice and public health groups are excited to support Tempe, the city of Tempe, in its transformation to a sustainable city powered by clean, equitable economy for all. With that, I'd like to introduce Professor Coseo from the University of Arizona.
Great, thank you so much, Christian. I'm really excited to be part of the conversation today. This is work we've been doing with the city of Tempe with Arizona State University since 2017. I'm really here today to describe a region that is warming at a frighteningly fast pace, and the coalition of government officials, public health officials, nonprofit leaders, researchers that are stepping up to protect the health, safety, and livability of our region. In recent years, our region has been experiencing extraordinarily hot summers. In this string of hot summers that has really started within this decade, 2020 was the first of the hottest summers on record, with an average air temperature, which is the average between the daytime high and the nighttime low, of 96.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Until 2023, that is, when that became then the hottest summer on record, with an average air temperature of 97 degrees Fahrenheit, until this year, which in 2024, which became now the hottest summer on record, with the average air temperature of 98.9 degrees Fahrenheit. But these averages also obscure the day-to-day heat extremes and the impacts on people's lives. If we turn to a very common measure, days over 110, then we get a better sense of this change. In 2011, we had 33 days over 110. That was our previous record. That stood for 9 years. But in 2020, we broke it by 20 days when we had 53 days over 110. Breaking a record in that way is highly unusual. It's more common to break a record by a day or two. Then we had a 2-year break from that record-breaking summer, and in 2023, we had 55 days, breaking the 2020 record by 2 days. This year, we had no break between brutal summers and broke the previous record by 15 days, racking up 70 days over 110. To make matters worse, these heat waves then wash over our cities and neighborhoods. They become amplified by areas built of lots of roads, pavement, and buildings, while they are then reduced in areas with less roads, buildings, and more trees and shade. This is called the urban heat island effect. In areas with lots of pavement and buildings, the problem is both day and night. During the day, lack of any quality shade or shadow exposes people and people's skin and the built environment to dangerous sunlight, and then allowing those neighborhoods to become supercharged with heat at night, with the air temperature where air temperatures don't fall and it's much hotter than other areas. Yet heat in an abstract way is not what we're concerned about for planning and policy purposes. We really care about the multiple ways it inequitably impacts health, well-being, and quality of life for our vulnerable neighbors, such as those that don't have a car or that live in mobile homes. Melissa Guardero and colleagues from ASU conducted a study a few years ago and found that in our communities, there are three general types of people, groups of people. There are people that are more or less inconvenienced by the heat. There are people that can generally manage the heat. And then the final category are our neighbors that are where heat is a catastrophe. And heat has real and tangible health and quality of life impacts, such as heat stress, illness, death, and affordability issues. Maricopa County produces really high quality heat reports every year. In 2023, the county reported 645 heat-related deaths that had occurred. That was up 52% from 2022's 425, and up every year since 2015. In 2023, 75% of those heat-related deaths were outside, making outdoor pedestrian infrastructure a critical way to improve health and safety. We also know that death is the worst outcome, but heat really degrades health and safety for many people in very subtle and insidious ways. Yet it's always been hot in Arizona, but the need for shade and other cooling infrastructure is now more critical than ever. But we are fighting back, and we are adapting through partnerships with a strong coalition with researchers, public health officials, city staff, and nonprofit leaders. We work with our partners, like the city of Tempe and others, to identify the key research questions that need to be answered for more strategic climate adaptation. And also, I would say faster, to get the better information. And we've identified key metrics of how to measure the performance of new types of infrastructure, such as using something called mean radiant temperature, or it's called MRT. MRT is a measure that includes sunlight and radiation, an important part of understanding cooling for people. That measure really includes sunlight and radiation to better understand how different types of infrastructure, such as trees, shade structures, building shade, can reduce heat stress through higher quality shade and protection from sunlight and radiation. Finally, federal funding from the Inflation Reduction Act is helping the region adapt to climate change. Our USDA funded ASU Urban Nature Project has helped support a strong regional approach to reduce extreme heat experiences, bringing Tempe, Phoenix, and Mesa in partnership with community health workers from Unlimited Potential and other key regional partners to grow our urban forests in our most heat vulnerable neighborhoods. The project has three key dimensions to it. There's community engagement to create tree shade action plans for our most vulnerable neighborhoods. There's job training and for planting and maintaining a healthy urban forest. And finally, venture development to grow our tree nursery industry. Mayor Woods, the city of Tempe is a key and important leader in our emerging regional approach to address climate change and extreme heat. And thank you for the partnership.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. I want to first of all thank the elected officials to Protect America for highlighting the city of Tempe. So we are really, truly grateful here in the city for the federal funding that's available, that's allowing the city of Tempe to rethink the way that we do business each and every day. Tempe and cities across the state and across the nation must start designing our cities with intention to address the climate crisis. Here in Tempe, we're always thinking about how to create a cooler, more welcoming community. So it's no secret to anyone in this room and probably anyone watching that I'm a huge fan of affordable housing. I've really dedicated my 2 terms in office here to push for effective strategies that will increase the supply of affordable units right here in Tempe. However, what's that all worth if our beloved city is unlivable due to extreme heat? We know that with the added risk of extreme heat, utility bills skyrocket, but we're going to do everything we can to protect our most vulnerable residents and, more importantly, make sure that they can stay in their own homes. Federal funding from the Department of Energy really is critically helping our residents. We're going to continue to retrofit mobile homes with energy efficiencies, that will decrease carbon emissions and will, of course, even more importantly, save residents money on their utility bills each and every month. And so to talk a little bit more about our shade canopies, I'd like to bring forth Councilmember Jennifer Adams.
Hello, good morning. I've had the good fortune of serving on national committees for sustainability. And so it's near and dear to my heart. I've probably been doing this for 20 years. And so I'm very excited to talk about shade canopy. It is our #1 deterrent for lowering our temperatures. So we have to do it. It's as important as having light poles and street lights. It has to become a vital part of our ever working community. The city of Tempe cannot reach our shade canopy goals alone. We need the private and public sector to participate in this process. Thanks to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Urban and Community Forest Grant, Tempe residents can get their knowledge, resources, and technical support to increase shade in their neighborhoods. One of the initiatives that I started was Trees for Tempe, and we have a program in Tempe now where residents can get trees at half price, up to 2 trees at half price. The city will fund the other rest of it, and so we can increase our trees. And I look forward to actually expanding that program in the near future. Thank you so much. Trees for Tempe.
Thank you so much. I'm Kendra Flory. I am a co-founder of a resident-driven bike caravan, and our goal is ensuring that our kids are getting to school safely. I always want to see the city of Tempe investing in safer streets. Tempe is starting to rethink traditional street design to increase safety for all users, not designing simply for car speeds. They're also making a difference in extreme heat. Extreme heat affects families in many ways, including students not being able to have recess outside for several months of the year. There are students and families for who it's a necessity to bike and walk to school each day, and it can be dangerously hot for them to do so. For others who choose to bike or walk, lack of shade and lack of infrastructure prevents them from doing so. We can design streets in a way that benefit the community in many ways, including limiting the amount of heat absorbing asphalt and concrete, increasing shade and vegetation, and prioritizing infrastructure that benefits pedestrians and cyclists. More residents are willing to use alternative modes of transportation when we make our streets safer. And we can significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions and extreme temperatures when we reduce single occupancy vehicles. We can help kids, families, and communities by making it easier for kids and adults both to get around on mobility devices, bicycles, and their own 2 feet. The Department of Transportation's Safe Streets for All funding allows Tempe to apply this kind of intentional design to a stretch of 3.9 miles on Baseline Road that increases safety and supports urban cooling. The Broadmor bike bus was started 2 years ago to advocate for solutions just like this, and we're very happy to see this work being done in Tempe. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Kendra. And I really do want to make sure to give Kendra Flory and Hannah Moulton-Belek, who started the Broadmor bike bus, huge props for what they've done. We always say that many times at the city of Tempe, we have some interesting and great ideas here within City Hall, but the majority of the great ideas that we have come from our residents who really are the driving force behind a lot of the innovations that happen in our community. So I wanted to thank Kendra and Hannah very publicly today. So from investing in residents' homes to supporting neighborhood resilience to rethinking traditional infrastructure, Tempe really is a solutions-focused community. We have the power to design a more sustainable city, and urban cooling will make our city healthier, safer, and more attractive to live and work in the future. And the Inflation Reduction Act is really helping us make that happen. So once again, thank you so much, everyone, for being here today, and I guess we can take any questions. All right.
We have a few. Great. We have any questions?
There is one question that says, working outside in extreme heat is bad for construction, emergency, and other workers. How are you protecting them?
So I think critically, one of the first things is trying to make sure that whatever projects we can have people work on where they're not going to be out there during the months of July and August, especially July, really is critically important. Some of these street repair work that we're doing right now in the downtown Tempe area started over the last few weeks. And I had actually a resident ask, why didn't you start that work at the end of June? Or why didn't you start that work in July? And the fact of the matter is you don't want your workers out there at 115-degree days when they're trying to actually do things that are important infrastructure projects. But it really is critically important that while we move the city forward from an infrastructure standpoint, that we make sure to protect the people who are actually doing that work. There are also cities that I know have also passed ordinances and things of that nature to try to ensure the health and safety and well-being of workers. The city of Tempe is looking at some of the same advances and policy changes from that perspective as well. So, but yeah, I will say that all the time. While the projects are important, while the infrastructure is important, while the aesthetics are important, there is nothing more important than the people, not just the ones who live here, but also the ones who work here and make this the greatest place to live, work, and raise a family. Anything else? Other questions? Oh, and Councilmember Adams just reminded me, we have people do night work as well. That is true. And I would just tell some of our residents who are watching who will say, why did I see people out pouring concrete at 10 o'clock at night? Because that is when it's the coolest part of the day to actually do it. And frankly, even from the concrete setting properly and things of that nature, some work is better done at night because it actually helps the infrastructure to settle appropriately. But it also is generally for the health and safety of the workforce.
Next question that came in is, school playgrounds are noted to be dangerous during extreme heat days. How are you protecting the children?
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest things that we do on a regular basis is that we work with our 3 school districts. We have exceptional school districts in the city of Tempe, the Tempe Elementary School District, Tempe Union High School District, and the Kyrene School District. While they have duly elected governing boards and superintendents who set policies and handle all of the day-to-day operations, we fully recognize that we have to have strong partnerships with our educational institutions if we really want to have a functioning, thriving city. And so we regularly work with those governing boards and superintendents to really ensure the overall health and safety, not only of the students, but also our teachers and all of our support staff in our 3 school districts. We also do things like trying to make sure that we're providing more workforce housing in our city. We just about 2-3 weeks ago approved a 229-unit, 100% workforce housing project in the city of Tempe to ensure that more of our teachers and service industry workers and police and firefighters can continue to work in the community that they serve each and every day. But really, I think it's the partnerships between the city council, our city leadership, and the school district leadership that help to ensure that our kids can learn and play in a very safe, healthy environment, safe from extreme heat, not just simply 9 months out of the year, but frankly, 12 months out of the year. I should also say this too while I'm here, though. We are in the process right now under an initiative called Refresh Tempe of spending a ton of money. And I don't have an exact number, but I'm telling you, it is quite a lot to ensure that we are fixing up and really revolutionizing all of our parks. We actually have more parks per square mile in the city of Tempe than any other community throughout the East Valley. And so right now what we're doing with all of those parks is adding inclusive play equipment, new ramadas, shade structures, and everything we can to ensure that not the kids of 25, 30 years ago, but the kids of today and the families of today have the amenities in their parks that they frankly want. We're also doing things called Arts in the Park, where we actually bring arts and cultural activities actually directly to people's parks in people's specific neighborhoods. But going back to the whole thing about climate, with all the new ramadas and the new shade structures and the trees that are being planted in these parks, it really is making sure that those parks can be used and programmed 12 months out of the year. Because that was one of the things that we used to regularly hear from people is, I can use the park for about 8 or 9 months, but then there's about roughly a 3-month period where the park is unusable, not because anything the city of Tempe's done, but just because of rising heat. And so with every new park that we are redoing, we are adding in those additional shade structures and trees to make sure that our young people and any of our residents can really enjoy our parks and all of our amenities year round.
Next question is, what brought you to the conclusion that redesigning the city infrastructure was the right thing to do?
I would say it's talking to our residents. I mean, I mentioned before that myself and Councilmember Adams and our 5 colleagues, we have good ideas every now and then. I want to put that out there for the record. But the reality is the majority of the great ideas we get come from residents who come to us and say, Mayor, council member, there's a need here in this community. We know that you're trying to find innovative ways to really drive the city towards the future. And so can you make sure to think about this when you're talking about your upcoming budget, or when you're talking about scheduling upcoming work that needs to be done? And so that really, from my perspective, is how all of this work starts. When it comes to revitalizing the parks, that really was our residents coming and saying, the park next to my home is probably the most valuable investment we have, or their home, I should say, is usually the largest single investment that most people have. And if you're living next to a park that's beginning to degrade, it not only takes down your overall property value, but it robs your children, and it robs you of the ability to have an amenity that really is critically important to your well-being in the city of Tempe. So when it comes to the advances that we've made from a sustainability and resilience standpoint, trying to find really forward, innovative ways to address climate change, a lot of those are coming from our residents. And I want to also say very specifically, a lot of our younger people. You can't go to Arizona State University, you can't go to the Maricopa Community Colleges District, and you can't even go to any of our school districts and have a conversation with our young people when they don't bring up the issue of sustainability and climate. It comes up all the time, even much more so than people who tend to be decades older than them. And those young people are really saying, it's my future that you have to plan for. You can't just simply worry, Mayor Woods, Councilmember Adams, or City Council about the people who are currently here and who own homes or who rent here. You also have to be planning for the future, for the next 10, 20, 30, and even 40 years. And those young people are frankly screaming out for that kind of innovative leadership. So when I think about the work we're doing to transform the city from an infrastructure standpoint and really make it a lot more sustainable and a lot more resilient, it really is with our younger people in mind. They're the ones who are going to be here for the next 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. And it really is imperative upon myself, Councilmember Adams, and the entire city council to make sure that we're creating a community that they can use for decades to come.
Can you talk a little bit about the timeliness of this? Why now have the press conference, especially as it's cooling off, I guess, a little bit now as well?
So one of the main focuses or issues that we wanted to bring with this press conference is to highlight the benefits of the Inflation Reduction Act. Those federal investments is historic. In general, it's over $390 billion that the federal government has set aside for investing in communities such as Tempe and others. And it's a story that's not being told. A lot of people don't know about it. And we want to make sure that residents of cities like Tempe know that this funding is out there and how to work with their city leaders to get access to it. So.
And one quick thing on that. One quick thing, we're also historically in the state of Arizona what they would call a donor state, meaning that we send more money back to the federal government and to Washington, D.C. than we actually utilize right here in our own communities. And from my perspective, that's just unacceptable. Our residents want that federal money and these historic investments to be used to improve their lives. And when this kind of money has come down to the city of Tempe, it gives us a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to really transform the way that we really think and live. I think we have a really big opportunity to partner with people who are of like mind and find ways to really move this community forward. Because frankly, our residents in the city of Tempe and across the East Valley or Maricopa County don't want us sending all this money back to Washington, D.C. They want us to actually improve their lives yesterday. And so that's what we in the city of Tempe are committed to doing. And we're really fortunate to have exceptional partners that we get to work with each and every day.
The next question comes in. A sustainable future involves water usage. What measures are there to help with that?
I'll comment on that. All the trees that we're planning and recommending right now are low water usage trees. So we want to transfer from our high water usage trees to low water usage trees. And we have 5 trees picked out that do use low water. So it's a win-win. It's low water and they'll grow in this incredibly heat. Thanks.
I can actually add a little bit to that. There's also a new refocus on stormwater as a key resource that's not being used in many cases. And so the city has a project called Rain to Roots master plan that they're working on to really look systemically at the whole city and understand how stormwater can be better utilized to support a healthy urban canopy and also urban cooling.
One of the really quick thing too, and just giving some more credit to Congressman Greg Stanton, who's been an extraordinary partner here in the city of Tempe. He, about probably 18 months or so ago, secured a $34.5 million budget authorization to reopen the Kyrene water reclamation plant that had been in mothballs for over a decade in South Tempe. So as we talk about water here in our community, and frankly, even from a broader context, getting that treatment facility back online provides us with another water source that we can use to service all of our residents. But we couldn't do it without strong partnerships with people like Congressman Stanton, who've been fantastic at delivering money and resources back to our community that we can in turn use to restart infrastructure that wasn't being utilized before, and therefore provide more water sources to make sure that we are sustainable moving forward.
And the last question came through addressed to the entire panel. What initiative are you the most excited about and why?
You know, the funny thing is, I can't really pick one. I mean, the reality is I'm excited about all of it. And I think about all of the collective efforts that we've made, not just the city of Tempe, but also our residents in really ensuring a more sustainable and resilient future. So I can't point out one specific thing that really is the thing that I'm most excited about, because I'm excited about all of them. And every day that I come into this office, usually right at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm here till 5 or 6 at night, I'm excited about the work the city is doing in multiple areas, but especially very much in the climate change, sustainability, and resilience areas. And I want people to know who are watching this. If you're a Tempe resident and you're watching this right now, please keep the good ideas coming. When I mentioned before about the work that both Kendra and Hannah have done with the Broadmor bike bus, those are the kinds of things that I think about in terms of teaching our young people and our students how to ride bicycles, how to get to and from point A to B without the use of a single-use automobile. We know that the work that's being done now by folks like Kendra and Hannah and the folks who are part of the Broadmor bike bus, they're teaching kids how to really engage with multimodal transportation. And therefore, those kids will be more likely to ride a bike as they get older, therefore kind of loosening their dependence on a single-use automobile that's guzzling fossil fuels. They will also be much more likely to use public transportation, bus rapid transit, light rail, Mill Avenue modern streetcar. So young people that get used to utilizing bicycles and bicycle paths and bike lanes from an early age, they're going to contribute to us being a lot more sustainable down the road, because they're not going to think of a world where it's only for people who drive in automobiles. And they're not going to think that roads should only be designed for people who are driving cars. They're going to be thinking about it from a really holistic 360-foot view of, we have to make sure we're designing a community. We have to make sure that we're designing streets that are for everyone, whether you're driving a car, whether you're riding a bike, or whether you're just a pedestrian walking. And so I get really excited, though, about a lot of those citizen-led initiatives that have really led to us not only being more sustainable now, but that are frankly training our younger people to be more sustainable in the future, because they will be comfortable utilizing all of those different modes of transportation, which is going to help us have a healthier Arizona and overall a healthier planet.
We also have opened up the Envision Center on Apache and Smith. And that's a great place for people that are having trouble with heat to go in and cool off, get some bottled water. Excuse my voice. COVID really got my voice. But anyway, that's a really good place to go to learn, and learning opportunity. It has people to help you with needs that you have. And it's nice and cool and lots of water. So I'd encourage you to take advantage of that. And also the Trees for Tempe program. That's one of the most exciting things I have. And I want to expand that program to our parks. So thank you.
An additional question just popped in. It says, will more heat pumps be installed as they cool in the summertime? And are there IRA grants for them?
I'm not sure at the moment, but at the end of the day, if we obviously have funding to do these things, we're going to continue to do everything we can to make Tempe the most sustainable city, not only in Arizona, but throughout the entire country. But obviously, money is a very critical element to all of these things. You have to have funding to make a lot of these things become a reality. So if we have additional funding that happens to come down from the federal government or state or county governments, we will definitely make sure to utilize that to, whether it's putting in more heat pumps or putting in other kinds of advances that will make us more sustainable and will help us to also conserve water. But all of these things do come back to funding and resources. And so I'll say also then to anyone watching this, back in Washington, D.C. or anywhere else, please know that your cities and towns know exactly where to put these funds to use to really help the residents who are here on the ground. So please keep that money and keep that funding coming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman, and the other esteemed speakers. Again, as the intent for this was again to highlight that historic federal funding and the benefits that it's providing for cities such as Tempe, and others. Thank you all for joining us today. I think we'll wrap up with that. Thank you so much.